Corporation Commissioner Bob Anthony is calling on Governor Stitt to order an independent audit of Oklahoma natural gas related to a 2021 winter storm. Anthony believes ratepayers may have been overcharged millions of dollars. Jason Doyle joins us now with more on Anthony's scathing 14-page opinion. Jason.
Rich, in his dissenting opinion here, Commissioner Bob Anthony contends ratepayers are getting a bad deal when it comes to deferring the costs of Winter Storm Uri in 2021. And he says the Corporation Commission isn't doing enough to make sure utility companies are not taking advantage of customers. If you've checked the line items on your electric or natural gas bills lately, you'll find an entry called Winter Event Cost Recovery. Usually each month, residential ratepayers are asked to pay between $3 to $10 a month to help recover costs due to February 2021's Winter Storm Uri. The legislature passed and the governor signed legislation allowing utility companies the chance to spread the billions in fuel costs over 20 years or longer so ratepayers would not have to pay oversized bills once Oklahoma began defrosting from the winter weather. In a dissenting opinion on a recent rate case for Oklahoma Natural Gas, Oklahoma Corporation Commissioner Bob Anthony says residential customers are being ripped off.
In the 35 years that I've been a commissioner, the largest fleecing of utility consumers and ratepayers has been this winter storm Uri in February of 2021.
Anthony says there are major cost overruns and a lack of oversight in how the bonds are being handled.
People have the right to know what they're being charged, and the truth and the facts have not been told. State agencies, including the Corporation Commission, have put their head in the sand and they have not been forthright.
He also says that the one-page audit on the fuel recovery bond program doesn't go far enough and is calling for a full audit.
The law requires a legitimate, independent audit, and we don't have that. And so I'm insisting that we meet the requirement in the law, and I don't think that my other two commissioners are going to vote to do it. And so the legislature could vote to do it, the governor could call it. Let's get it done.
The chairman of the Oklahoma Corporation Commission, Todd Hyatt, feels Anthony could be misinterpreting the specific legislation which directed the commission's approach to the so-called audit.
This audit, as required by statute, is an audit of the bond payments. The other thing Commissioner Anthony takes issue with is that it's called an audit. I didn't name it an audit. The Corporation Commission didn't name it an audit. The statute itself calls it an audit. So therefore we have referred to it as an audit. But it's really just a simple financial calculation to assure that the proper collections were made of ratepayers.
Hyatt has no problem with taking a second look into the bond program to ensure utilities are subjected to a proper level of accountability.
Now, I have welcomed, as a matter of fact, close to a year ago, I talked to our state auditor about potentially doing an audit because Commissioner Anthony was raising major concerns at that time, and I certainly would welcome an audit to assure that the Corporation Commission has done everything correctly.
Anthony says he came to his conclusion that there are nearly $1 billion in cost overruns and that utilities might be making money from the securitization of fuel costs, because he compared what was paid to the proposed contract.
I want to compliment the state treasurer, both the previous one and Todd Russ. They have been very, very helpful in giving me actual documents of what they paid. And then I had to work to get the documents from an RFP to see what should have been paid, and they're not the same. Politely, I call that a discrepancy.
Hyatt says Anthony has a point on the cost overruns of the bonds, but that was because of an unstable bond market at that time.
That has already been reviewed, and that is correct. There were, now Commissioner Anthony refers to it as cost overruns, but really what that amounted to was there were estimates made of what the bonds would cost. It was based on an interest rate market that was increasing rapidly during this period of time.
Anthony's own lawsuit against the securitization of the fuel costs also added to the bonding costs, according to Hyatt.
you saw major delays in the issuances of the bonds because of the Supreme Court case, the Supreme Court challenges that Commissioner Anthony and some of his cohorts brought against the bonds at the Supreme Court. That's about $850 million, just between the interest cost and the delay at the Supreme Court. That was about $850 million.
Interest rates had doubled by the time the Oklahoma Supreme Court gave the go-ahead to issue the bonds nearly 2 years after Winter Storm Uri hit.
At the time when we were discussing securitization back in the late spring, summer of 21, interest rates, it appeared that we could get in the twos. And suddenly they continued to rise through 22, and by the time of issuance, we ended up in some cases, in this particular case, it was 4.5%.
Anthony says the Corporation Commission shirked its duty when it approved the securitization of the fuel costs, and the ratepayers deserve better.
It was a joke. It's an insult. It's also a financial fleecing of Oklahoma ratepayers. And that's why we need an honest prudence review.
As of Friday morning, the governor nor legislative leaders have called for the more extensive audit of the winter storm costs bond program. Rich?